Welcome to RPG Book Club. On today's episode, boy, do I hope you like talking about the issues. All right, hello and welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play long games together and we discuss them in the moment. I'm Sam Allman.
I'm Mike, and I currently have the persona Pixie equipped.
Yay! I'm Sailor Eli, and I'm feeling much better than the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, like you had like the first week you were like your back was thrown out, then you've had a flu for like 2 episodes. Like you've just been just been a mess.
Yeah. But I'm doing better now. I think I'm good to go.
Good. Before we get started, I have a couple issues of follow up. The first one is back in episode 2, Michael referred to the term Arcana as Hierophant.
Yeah, and I don't know why.
I was listening to it this week, and he just sounded like he had no idea what he was talking about for that entire episode.
I do this podcast drunk. So when I talk, you should only believe you should probably verify everything that I say.
I'm because I'm up in the moment when you're saying it like that doesn't sound right.
The next thing I'm gonna say is like, when Mitsudu and Senpai made out, and Mitsudu and Akihiko Senpai made out with each other, you guys are gonna be like, what? When did that happen? Like, it happened about a month ago in game. You don't remember? So, that's what I'm gonna do next. That's my next trick. But I did say Arcana last podcast, and I did it so casually, like I thought I was gonna get away with it. I didn't. I'm sorry. I'm ready for the Redditors to come for me and drag me on Twitter.
It's gonna happen.
I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready for that.
Good. I had another bit of follow up for something else we said that I wanted to correct, and I can't remember it. I feel like I threw it in Discord, but we've been talking about crap in the Discord for like a week and a half, so there's no way I'll figure it out. But
if we remember, just correct it next time.
Yeah, just add it. Yeah, just interrupt one of us.
Yeah.
and then do that.
Midway through the podcast when I'm griping about something, like, I remembered.
So, let me pull up my notes. I have them here. I changed how I'm taking notes this time around because we're getting to, like, last episode really showed that we're getting to the part of the game where none of us are doing the same thing anymore. So I changed how I'm taking notes to be like a calendar that's color coded on like shit that happened to everybody, so we can get through that, and then we can go back for like social links and like stuff about like, I was doing Tartarus bosses, those sorts of things that like we might not have all run into.
Right.
So the very first thing we do when we get in game, first I should go to last time on. Do you guys remember what the very last thing we did was, or should I pull up my notes from last week?
All we saw was like Jesus guy shoot somebody.
Oh yeah,
and then walk away.
Yeah, last week, like nothing was really happening. Like there were no cliffhangers. Like everything was taken care of. The only slight cliffhanger we had was a revenge website, which still hasn't like come through. Like that's not part of this month again. So like we really knew was we were a week away from the full moon, and that's where we picked up this week.
We also had Yukari being very suspicious of Mitsuru. She was displaying that a lot. So
yeah, and she talked with Fuka and was like, "Hey, Fuka, go and investigate for me."
Right.
And I think that's all that we had from last time. So this time we here on the 3rd, the rumor girls are talking, and they say that Shirakawa Boulevard is a quote-unquote disgusting place where girls don't want their boyfriends to go. So like they were talking, we're like, hey, so my boyfriend and I were out on a date, and it looked like he was trying to take me to Shirakawa Boulevard. That's so gross, blah 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 blah. And then at the dorm, following up on that, everyone's talking about how the shadows are attacking couples. So and Yukari even noticed that like nothing has happened this month. Like there's no like impending doom like we've had for the last couple of full moons, and she blames it on Mitsuru and is like, Mitsuru is hiding something. She's not telling us what's going on.
I think it's because is this the scene where she talks to Fuka?
No, that was last month.
Okay, yeah, okay. And this is coming, if players don't remember, she kind of like went to Fuka and was like, listen, bitch, I think there's something about Mitsuru. You want to do a little bit of research for her? Because, you know, she's a little bit, and something's off. And, you know, Fuka being new, you know, she probably was like, yeah, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at currently with that.
Yeah. So then the next big thing that happens is on the 6th. Junpei asks, like, he's talking to you about, tomorrow's the big day. He's super excited, and I wrote in my notes that I felt like something was going to go horribly wrong. Like, in storytelling, you either have a huge buildup and a payoff, or you have no buildup and a surprise. And with how little buildup we had coming up the day before the full moon, I had no idea what we were in for, except for maybe couples revenge sort of thing. Like, at this point, I was thinking it was going to be some sort of like, it was couples would go to Shirakawa, something bad would happen, the girls would go on the revenge website and like kill their boyfriends or something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't even in that it wasn't even in that depth when we found out.
Yeah. So like I was expecting something, but it just because literally wasn't giving me anything until the full moon. So then on the 7th we had the full moon, and in the morning, Fuka asks how we're doing and says that we have a meeting after school. It doesn't even show us to that meeting. It just skips us all the way to the dark hour to go and get started on the thing. I put in my notes that this dungeon really feels like a filler. Like, they could have put this dungeon on any of them. Like, it's not part of the overall plot really at all. She searches for a shadow, and she finds one, and it is on Shirakawa Boulevard. And Ikutsuki says that he sees why all the shadows were found, or all the apathy syndrome people were found in couples, because that's where all of the cheap hotels that you go to have sex are.
So he mentioned they're all saying they're those kind of hotels there, and Junpei starts going on about, people go to do that there, and he's basically implying that they're love hotels, which are in Japan. Love hotel is basically a place where you go to have sex with someone. They're super private. But then Ikutsuki clarifies that they're just fancier than other hotel rooms. Like, they're not any different from other hotels. Like, that's how he's framing it. I guess because they're high schoolers, and he's like, oh no, they're thinking too much about sex. Must change the subject.
Yeah, Yukari is obviously skeeved out, and she doesn't want to go. And Junpei is like, come on, don't be a baby. And so she decides to go and says, hey, I'm going to be in the party. And so she's the only one that's required in your party at the moment. So then I pick Akihiko and Mitsuru for the other two in my party. Me too. And we have this dungeon, which is like an actual like dungeon for the first time. Like, there's a puzzle, there's like different floors, there's things that you have to remember, there's like gameplay to it. It's not just a corridor like the first one, and it's not just some level designed levels of Tartarus like the second one. Like, this one is actually like planned out, and I thought it was really, really good. It's a mall with hotels above it. Most of your dungeoning happens in the hotel. The mall is just the first floor. The music in it is really, really good. I would pause to like write out notes, and I would just listen to that music for a while.
Yeah, I like that music. I really like the Metro music as well. And that shows up later on too.
Yeah.
I was going to say I'm kind of a sucker for Japanese rap, which was what was in the metro.
It's all over this
Yeah.
game, which is amazing. Like, there's just so much good of it. Like, skipping ahead a little bit, I got to the third block of Tartarus, so I got the new Tartarus song, and it's like a chiller like remix of the normal Tartarus song that sounds like the backbeat to a rap song that's supposed to make you cry. So like a Drake song or a old school Eminem song, one where you're supposed to be like crying during it. I'm like, oh man, it's so good. Like, my favorite of the Tartarus songs so far, for sure.
Yeah, most of the songs in Tartarus are bops. I didn't know, like, it's really easy to... I think it was on purpose, actually. When you're kind of grinding through that whole dungeon, it can get really daunting. I mean, like, I don't know if either of you have, like, lost a boss battle and couldn't save or didn't save to begin with, and you lost, like, a lot of progress. But, like, in Tartarus, it becomes... That's a lot of progress lost, and so I'm glad that they implemented that sort of music, because it's surprisingly like holds up through the years.
And like the loop itself isn't that long, but it's okay. It's just, like, the loop is probably 20 seconds long, would be my guess. Like, maybe it has a couple variations on it, but it's like the same thing. But it's a good same thing. Like, I could literally just put that on, and that like when I'm working, and just last my entire 10-hour shift with it. So nothing at all exciting happens as you go through it. There's no shadow fights or anything. You just walk up to the third floor, and there's a large door, and you go into a fight. The fight itself wasn't that exciting for me. I remembered. This is it. This is the thing. Here we are. I am playing on easy, and Eli is playing on normal. I had told Eli to play on easy so that he wouldn't have to like grind out a bunch of levels to make sure that like each week was fine. But something happened there. So like all the time, I'm like, I was super over leveled, and I took it out in one hit. And he's like, no, it was horribly hard. I was like, what? Like, how under leveled are you? But he's actually probably doing it right, and I'm cheating like a cheater. But
I had totally forgotten when I started playing that you had mentioned going into easy mode, and I was like, I know RPGs, I'll play it on normal. And now I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. Because
like I spent that whole fight for the Hierophant. Everybody else was attacking as much as they could, and I was just like Secunda and Cadenza as frequently as I needed to, because
that's literally what I did for the fight. Was the defense for the defense for that boss is really high. Which boss? I feel like there's a lot of Hierophant bosses, but which floor is this?
No, not in Tartarus. This is
the actual Hierophant.
Yeah, this is the big shadow. It's in the hotel. It's the first one you fight in the hotel before the lovers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that one for me, I just seconded it and then used Cadenza, and I was like, you're not touching me.
Yeah. All I did is I saw that I didn't know what it was weak to because I was scanning on the first turn. So I used Jack Brothers, and it fell down. So I did an all-out attack, and then in 3 turns, he was dead. So, yeah.
It was a war of attrition for me. It took so long to kill that boss.
Yeah, so I haven't game overed yet, because easy, in addition to it being easier, it gives you 10 wipe protection items. And here later, I'll talk about a Tartarus boss that made me use up all of them. So the next time I die for real. But so because of that, I've just like made it super easy through the game, and I feel over leveled all the time, and I'm a little like upset because like now that we're seeing the like both of our play styles, like I am definitely more of a clear out Tartarus sort of person than Eli is. So I would probably be doing much better on normal, and would like all of my complaints would probably be fixed by it being harder. And Eli is having the harder time and would probably have a better time on easy, but we can't switch save files at this point. But let's see. So we Fuka gets a new ability at the end of the Hierophant fight, which allows her to see buffs and debuffs. And then we're trying to leave the room and the door is locked. And now the dungeon actually starts. Like that shadow was a fakey. It was like it was supposed to be a letdown because the interesting stuff happens like on your escape from the hotel.
I was terrified at that point because Hierophant was so hard. And I gained 2 levels from killing it.
Oh, wow.
Wow, I didn't gain 2 levels. I was in the middle of one of mine, and that was it. I mean, the fight wasn't hard itself. I think that what did it do? Didn't it do like a fear attack in Mazio or something like that a lot?
It had some. I think it was higher than Mazio. It was like Maziola or something like that. Some higher level hit everyone with electricity attack, and then it had the strike attack that could hit everyone. And like I died multiple times because even though like I had cadenza up and my evasion was raised, I kept getting hit by it. And it would one-shot me because I was weak to it.
Man.
Yeah,
wow.
It sucked. It was frustrating.
Yeah, I think I'm torn on if our next game I want to do it on easy to make sure I get through it, or do it on normal.
I'm absolutely doing the next game on easy. In fact, I'm doing every game from now on easy mode. You can't stop me. The only
time I'll stop you is if it's a old school game. There's a thing that old games did where easy, your game just ended earlier. So if there were 10 levels, you only got to play 7 up on easy. I don't think we'll be playing anything that old. Like that would be like early NES type thing. So I don't think we'll be playing any of them that old. But if we manage to do that and I find out that easy, you don't get like the actual final dungeon or whatever, is the only time I'll force anybody to play on something harder than easy.
Yeah.
So, let's see. So the door is locked, and we're look around the room to like find another way out. And the mirror is weird, and it knocks us out. So then it shows us an anime cutscene of some girl showering, which we find out in a second is Yukari, and you wake up on the bed, and but it's still dark hour, but you don't remember what happened. And then a creepy voice is telling you all sorts of things like embrace your desire, the future doesn't matter, your memories aren't real, and I just ignored it the whole time. Yukari comes out of the shower and slaps me for seeing her in a towel, and so Yukari talks about how she was hearing the voices too. So she feels like she was having her thoughts messed with, and we have to go and regroup and then fight the second shadow.
How did that scene play out for you, Michael?
Okay, so when I hit the mirror, there was a voice. You guys got the voice going in your head. It was just like, give in to your desires. You want this to happen. And because I had chose the female protagonist, Akihiko came out of that shower. And he didn't even slap you. He's just like, all right, it's your turn. And then he's like, wait, what the fuck? What am I doing here? And then you're like, it's a trap from the enemy. And then he's like, what? And then he runs back into the bathroom, puts on his clothes. You then go to the second floor where you meet your 2 other party members, and they're like, are you all right? And he's like, yeah, why wouldn't we be fine? We're fine. And that's it.
Okay. That part, it gave us the opportunity to say what Akihiko said, where we could say, why wouldn't we be fine? Or just like, yeah, we're cool. Because Yukari asked us to not tell anybody that we saw her in a towel. So you could be like, you could be,
we got the choice
be
too.
Bad at lying or not be bad at lying. And I thought that was cool. Because it wasn't just like, it wasn't one of them was like, I saw Yukari naked, but it was just like, no, there's nothing going on.
Hey, I've been lying this whole game. I'm real good at it by now.
You know, the fact that I saw Akihiko naked, and then it kind of, the game could have just positioned it in a way where Akihiko answered for you, because it would have been really cool to be like, you know, he's so nervous that he's just kind of like talking over the main character, or the other person would have just been so nervous that they were talking over the main character. But here it kind of puts the player in a really weird position, just like, are you gonna say something or not? You know, and I like that addition. It was kind of like an unnecessary choice because you weren't going to give it out anyway, but assigning that choice to the player was really cool.
So after after we meet up, I play it off cool, and I'm like, yeah, nothing was the matter, and Yukari like gives me a thumbs up type thing. But then Mitsuru does not is hot under her collar, and she's like, no, there was nothing's the matter, nothing happened, which means they probably saw each other naked. So so they're talking about how I think Fuka comes in and is like, the mirrors are giving off shadow energy, so you have to break them, and then you'll be able to get into the top room and fight the shadows. So now there are normie shadows roaming the hallways for you to fight, and when you go up to your first mirror, if you break it, if you're unlucky like I was, your head will feel fuzzy, and you'll wake back up in that room where you had Yukari and start the whole process over again. And
such an awful, so annoying. Such an annoying sequence. I don't care how many times you want me to remember where this positioning is from like a gameplay perspective, from a story perspective. There was no reason to make the player start all over again. It was so obnoxious. So obnoxious.
I got lucky because I only did that first one. I messed up. That was the only time I messed up. So I didn't ever have to start over and lose progress, because it was the very first one I did where I saw that I could lose progress. So I wasn't going to break anything unless I was certain. The very first mirror that I looked at happened to be the correct mirror, which the shtick is that the correct mirrors you need to break don't have your reflection.
Well, they also had different coloration.
Yeah, but because it didn't have your reflection, not a lot of games in 2006 had like reflections programmed in. I remember playing.
I wrote about that. I wrote a fucking note like, how do they do this on a PSP?
Like, I remembered in Metroid Prime, there's a shiny bit on the wall, and you walk in front of it, and it has like a really crappy like pixel art version of your like your reflection. And I remember that being like a really cool thing, and that was only like 3 years before this. So
dude, I remember the first Pokemon games that had your reflection in the water. Those were incredible. Those were on the Game Boy Advance though, so a little bit different, but I still remember, like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, so when I walked in front of it and it didn't have a reflection, I just thought that that's how it worked. And so I just went on my merry way, didn't realize that the next ones all had reflections. So I like scoped out the entire floor, couldn't find anything different about it until on the third floor, I saw one that didn't have my reflection again, and I finally realized it. And so I could go back and do it. So after you do that, you have your fight with the lovers, who I had my war of attrition here. I basically was just I put two people on heal and had me and Akihiko just fighting as much as possible just to wear her down, because she was resistant to like everything. I couldn't find any weaknesses, and she also resisted Jack Brothers, the one that just knocks them down. So I just had to punch.
Yeah, I didn't have as much of a problem with that one.
Probably because you leveled up twice.
Yeah, I went from 18 to 20 after I killed Hierophant, and Mitsuru actually gained Bufula. So she was doing much more damage at that point. That's a higher level version of Bufu. And so like I was still using Sukunda and Cadenza, but I wasn't needing to use it as often. Lovers just weren't doing as much damage. The worst part, I think... Oh, no, that was Hierophant that did that. I was thinking about the fear thing, but no, that wasn't Lovers. That was Hierophant. So yeah, like even the lovers like arrows and stuff, like they never got a charm off on me or anything. So
Yeah. I think I had like one charm, but it was like right there at the end. Like overall, both of these fights were like annoying, but like in an HP sponge with a lot of attack sort of way, not in like a crazy, differently designed boss fight.
I did
or nothing.
gain 2 more levels from lovers, by the way.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Jesus. What level were you when you did this?
I started at 18 when I went into the dungeon. Yeah, so I hit 22 afterwards.
Holy crap. Wow. Okay, I came in at level 22. Yeah.
All right, so outside of the hotel, everybody's like, good job. And Fuka says that she found out something about Tartarus and the incident 10 years ago. And Yukari is like, tell me later. Junpei is again upset that I'm the hero and I do everything. But he didn't even want to research last month. So you get what you get.
Did he ask you a question there?
I don't think he did.
Remember.
No, he just kind of like bitched at us.
So in the portable version, when he makes the comment, you say something like, he gives you like a choice to say something because he was bitching about how he wasn't the leader, and you say something, I forget what you say, but it's like something to placate him or whatever. And then he said, and then Yukari is just like, geez, what are you complaining about? Are you going to complain now that she's a girl too? And he's like, no, whatever. And then he like walks off. Yeah.
Wow. They definitely. Excuse me. They definitely are playing up the like Junpei is a problematic asshole to girls thing a lot, which is awesome because, like, as we'll see later on, they don't give you an opportunity to find it problematic as the boy character. Not looking forward to the next big plot jump after this one. So, yeah. So, after we're walking out, we see the Jesus, some nerd, and the Lolita are up like on a building or something watching us, and they know about everything we're doing in Tartarus, and they're impressed about how easily we just walked in and wrecked shop. They wonder if we're going to be their enemy, and the nerd says, why don't we ask our quote-unquote buddy, which don't know what that means yet. I haven't seen what they're like. Who they might be talking about Shinji. Now that I'm thinking about the stuff at the very end of the month, that might be who they're talking about, but it's not perfectly clear right now.
It's very up in the air. Yeah.
So on the 9th, the rumor girls say that there was an explosion at the school 10 years ago and they built the building from the ground up. And Elizabeth calls me and says that the next block of Tartarus is open. I didn't enter it now. I entered it later. But if y'all want, we can talk about the new bit of Tartarus before we go to the next
You think
bit.
I've even gotten there?
The third block is really, really pretty. The walls are like a Escher painting, and the floor looks like underwater, like that texture type thing. And the music is different and way more chill. But other than that, after Tartarus opens on the 11th is the next big thing. I don't remember what he says during the opening, but my note was just Junpei is a dick. Yeah, so this is on the 11th is when we get a text from Akihiko that says Ikutsuki has something to tell us, meet on the 4th floor after school. So when we get there, we loop Ikutsuki in on what happened with the lovers, and this is where Yukari decides to confront Mitsuru. So she jumps in and it's like, bitch, I know you hiding stuff from me. I know Tartarus has to do something with the accident 10 years ago. Like, this is what I heard about the missing kids, them being hospitalized. Everything sounds just like what would happen with Fuka. Tell me what's up. And Mitsuru was just like, it didn't seem relevant. And Mitsuru then says, what if we could use the shadows to our advantage? 14 years ago, that's what her grandfather was trying to do. He was obsessed with shadows and wanted to harness them to create something amazing. He assembled a team of scientists to gather shadows, and 10 years ago, they were doing the experiment. They lost control. It changed everything. Tartarus, the Dark Hour, and the New School all came out of this experiment. The shadows that we've been fighting on the full moons are shadows that ran away during the experiment. And Tartarus is at the school because they were doing the experiment at school. Mitsuru apologizes for not telling us everything, says a quote that I wrote down, said, "Some of us didn't have a choice," which I don't really know what that was. And but she doesn't know why the shadows have started like attacking now 10 years later. Like, this should have been a problem for 10 years. It's only just now a problem. But regardless of all of that, she says, we know that the 12 shadows are the cause of everything, so we can kill them to destroy Tartarus and end the Dark Hour. So then the next day was a whole bunch of like small scenes between like all the other characters. It was like day in the life stuff, which I thought was awesome because it was a day off at school. And so we got to see everybody outside of school hanging out. Akihiko met up with Shinji, and Shinji was like, "Don't even ask me to come back." And Aki's like, "No, I was just seeing what you were up to." And 14 years ago, they were both at the same orphanage, and that's how they met. And Akihiko reminds him of Miki, one of their friends they used to hang out with. Shinji stops him and says, "If you want to get sappy, talk to C's. Leave me out of that." He says that Akihiko never cares about his past. He only runs forward into things. So something is obviously up. What does he want to talk about? And Akihiko says that they found a way that they can get rid of Tartarus, and this is the first time that like they've confirmed that Arigake Senpai knows what Tartarus even is. And and so Akihiko says something personal, like he's reflecting on himself. He's like, "I don't even know why I'm fighting anymore." And Arigaki Sensei is or not Sensei, well, Arigaki Senpai says that he didn't have a good reason to fight the shadows, which is why he quit. And Akihiko's like, "Fuck you, I didn't ask for a lecture," and storms off. Meanwhile, we see Fuka's room, and Mitsuru comes in to talk to her, and Fuka's room is so cute.
It is.
Definitely putting a screenshot of her room down, especially because we saw Junpei's like 2 months ago and it was trash, and just seeing how like she has flowers everywhere and stuff. It's so adorable. Mitsuru comes in and says, "Hey, Fuka, can you investigate the incident? You have my permission to hack into the Kirijo group servers to see what's up." She asks Fuka if Fuka is mad that she's that Mitsuru dragged her through everything, and Fuka says no. She then tells us that her parents feel inferior to their family because they aren't doctors, so they've take out their frustrations on Fuka. So Fuka hates being at home, so she loves living in the dorm and being in C, so she's not mad at Mitsuru.
Yeah, she also mentions that she likes the fact that she's needed, and Fuka has a real desire and want to be needed or to have a place somewhere. And this is a theme that's also kind of in line with the librarian story, in that even the librarian says like, "I don't really care about, I don't know if like she can love someone, or if someone really loves her. She just wants to be needed." And Fuka sort of shows same themes here, in that she just really wants to be appreciated for her skill. And Mitsuru ends that conversation with saying like, "You cannot be replaced. Like, we need you."
Which was really cool. The next scene we see is Junpei. He's moping by himself. He's mad that Tartarus will be gone because he's doesn't feel like he's good at anything besides fighting. But then he realizes that time and time again, main character is proven to be better than he is, so he doesn't even have fighting going for him, and so he's like lost, and the future is a big question mark for him, which like is a really good characterization. That's not just he's a lech, because that's usually all we get from him.
I really liked that scene because it humanized him more.
Yeah.
Although I hate him again later. So.
Oh yeah, definitely so. He gets 3 days. That's what he gets. So then the last one we see is Yukari's, which is my favorite of these.
Well, I wanted to go back and talk about Junpei's thing really quickly. Junpei, up until this point, has been a little bit of a misogynist, sexist, weird, creepy, and the story here takes a really interesting turn in that it introduces a really insecure side of Junpei. Like he spends a lot of time complaining and comparing himself to the main character. And even though, despite he may be a little bit of an asshole, he's really brilliant when he wants to be. The funny thing about Junpei is that when he wants to be clever, he's clever, and when he is, and he can commit to that. But when he's being a dick, he knows how to really commit to that too. And so it's really cool to kind of get this side of Junpei where I don't think I can ever understand where he comes from, but it is good to know that the only dimension about this character is not toxic masculinity, but kind of something that can explain why he tries to overcompensate and everything. And that's, Junpei is like such an electric character that you're like, you don't have to be so extra. Like, what are you compensating for? And his insecurities reflect that. And so I really like that scene because of.
Okay, so the next scene we see is Yukari, and she has 3 different boy band posters on her wall, which I thought was a great bit of characterization there. And she's reading this letter that she got from her dad from a time capsule. And she's worried that she's wasting time on having friends because, like, all of the things that her dad is saying in the letter, such as she's like this because the letter says I'm putting this in the time capsule so you can read it in high school, and he's talking about like, oh, I hope you're going to be doing good and doing that. And then he goes into, at the end, next week I'm going to this thing at the Kirijo group and it's going to be exciting and I can't wait to see what happens. I feel we're going to do a lot of good. And that being 10 years ago, it lines up that her dad was in the incident, which like Yukari is such a tragic character at this point. Like, she's scared of everything, yet she goes into Tartarus, and the reason she's like going into Tartarus and doing all of these things is to find out what happened with her dad, who like she like has to hang out with the people who are indirectly responsible for her dad dying, and yet she still does it because that's who she is, and it's great. So later that night at the dark hour, Pharaoh shows up and he asks about life as a Persona user. He says he remembers something about the coming of the end. It relates to a occurrence many years ago, 10 years ago. He says, oh, don't you remember? Your parents died 10 years ago too, which makes me think that every Persona user, at least that we know so far, has something to do with the incident 10 years ago.
This is the point of the this is the point of the game where the storyline starts to kind of take a little bit more shape, right? Like you're the main character, but really this is like less about. You're starting to realize that this story is less about you and more about the people that you're recruiting into Seas, and you start to realize that Yukari and Mitsuru have a little bit more of a connection going on with each other than what you automatically understand. And at this point, I remember playing it and thinking to myself, like, well, if Yukari and Yukari and Mitsuru have this connection from 10 years ago, does that mean that other people do as well? And that's when it starts to. I feel like this is the point of the story where it starts to take a more heavier tone, because you start to realize like Mitsuru's grandfather was a scientist that worked on shadows that caused literally this whole world to change through like Tartarus and through the dark hour. And so it's not like really a game that people are playing anymore. It's not something that's like really light, but it does kind of issue blame to someone. And it's really interesting to see how Yukari, even before all of this, had an issue with Mitsuru, and now even after this, it's kind of just like we start to see like Mitsuru, or that Yukari deals with the idea of like justification for how she feels, because you have this story arc before, and now you have this really kind of like unclear understanding of or I guess a better understanding of what exactly her problem is with Mitsuru.
So, Eli, did you have something that you wanted to say about that?
No, I think Michael covered it.
Okay. So on the 13th, after that, Fuka asks if we all have plans for the summer, and Junpei says he wants to go to the beach, and Mitsuru's like, "Oh, my dad has a vacation home on a beach. Let's go visit him." And Junpei says something gross about seeing the girls in bathing suits there, and then, as they're dispersing, Yukari stops Mitsuru and says, "Hey, I apologize for how I brought up your secrets." And Mitsuru's like, "No, it's fine. I totally understand." And she says that her dad witnessed the incident, but survived. So, like, everyone else died but her dad. So them going to talk to him to figure stuff out is the best way that they can figure out what happened. So then the next 5 days are all exams. How did you guys do on exams this time around?
I got a really good score. Apparently, it didn't let me answer the last question. It said I had a tough time with it, but I was confident in what I said.
Yeah.
After I did my exams, I didn't check what I scored with. I was just like, I need to go to vacation. Bye.
So I did pretty good as well. I had the same thing that you did, Eli, on the thing. I thought that I had, because I've leveled up my academics like 3 times since then. I thought surely I was going to do good, but I still was like on task. So I probably need to study more. But
what level's your intelligence? Because or your academics? Because I went to intelligent. But if I didn't check the scores the day after. Am I missing?
No, they weren't until after vacation.
Yeah, they post them after the vacation.
Yeah, my academics is above average.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too. The 18th is when exams are over, and Ikusuke Sensei says he found a new person with the potential to join us, and as we're going out to talk to him about it, Natsuki comes out, asks to hang out with Fuka at a study session, and is like really friendly. And Junpei is surprised at how much that Natsuki has changed. And I still don't really like Natsuki, but I'm glad that she at least saw the error in her ways and is trying to make up for it. You still locked somebody in a gym overnight.
Yeah, you're still a piece of shit, Natsuki. Don't talk to me. Don't text me. Lose my number. I don't ever want to see from you again. Fuka, if you, yeah, I'm like, Fuka, if you want to fuck with Natsuki, that's fine, bitch. But watch your back.
Yeah,
because I don't trust Natsuki.
I would have been terrified. Like if I was in Fuka's position, I would be like, no, you're gonna fuck me over again.
Yeah,
and you're gonna do it worse this time because you'll have gotten close to me.
Yeah, fuck that.
But Fuka is a darling soul, and she forgave her because that's just how good of a person Fuka is. She's a better person than all of us. So at that point, Ikutsuki Sensei shows up, and he has this little boy with him, like 12 years old. His name is Ken, and his mom died in an accident 2 years ago. So he's been like a ward of the state or something. So Ikutsuki's going to bring him to our dorm to stay because he has the potential. And
did you guys not see him the few days before the vacation? Because Junpei and Yukari were with him at the shrine, and they were like, "Hey, this is our little buddy."
No, did not see that at all.
No.
Yeah, if you went before the vacation. So if you went to I want to see what the shrine's called actually. Naganaki Shrine. So if you go to the Naganaki Shrine, you see Junpei, Yukari, and Ken speaking with each other, and she's like, "Well, Ken is more reliable than Stupei. He's our little buddy." And Junpei just said something silly about Ken, and that was it. But I was like, "Oh, I recognize this person. Like, I forgot that they were actually friends before."
That's really cool because she calls him Kin-kun, and she's like, Kin-kun, what's going on? But like, I thought that was just like an off-screen thing. It's cool that you can stumble upon it. I haven't gone to the shrine in this like the last 2 months. I only went there to hang out with Maiko a little bit last month, and that's it.
Whenever you can't, so when I can't visit the library because of social links, I go to the shrine because when you insert 100 yen, you get your academics increased. So it's another way to increase it.
Okay.
Yeah. So Kinkun looks up to Akihiko a lot, like knows his boxing stats. So he's not just like, oh, Akihiko sensei, you're so old and cool. He's like, oh my God, like you're the tri-state boxing champion and stuff. And it was really cute.
Yeah.
So
He's like us at the age of 10.
So after exams, we have our post-exam break, which is the weirdest thing for me. Like you have exams, you have 3 days off, you have 2 days of school, then you have summer break. And I'm like, why not just start summer break? Like, it's
yeah,
weird.
I don't understand that either.
I actually Googled how is the Japanese school year broken up, like online. And so because the spring is all about new beginnings, like flowers are starting to bloom and all of that stuff. That's when they change over their years, and they have 3 terms per year. So you have April through August is one. Then you have then you come back in like late September. Have that goes until about Christmas, and then you have from January up until like March is the last term, and you change grades in April. So it's not it's not after summer break like it is in most like Western places, which I thought was really cool. But
don't they have more days off in general than we do?
I think they do now that they have a 5-day school week. It probably evened out back when they had 6-day, but yeah. So the next thing that happens on our post-exam break is we go to the beach. There's a anime scene where everybody's on a boat, and Junpei's like Yukishima, woo! But everybody else looks like really nervous, and so it's like really weird because he's like cheering and like on the edge of the boat and everything, and everyone else is like in the cabin just like staring at each other.
Yeah, that sequence for me was just, I mean, a lot of what you see that adds a lot of more character and like life to this game really gets missed in the portable version, because all you see is a single still of like a boat and the horizon, and then Junpei doing exactly what she's saying. So like from a story perspective, even in other Persona games, like older ones, it had more detail with the environment, or took you to different stills. And so that's why I wasn't too impressed with this specific scene, because sometimes it just gives you the most boring ass backdrop, and you're like, this is not anything like what the player sees on the console version. And I understand that it's a portable version, but also this game has reflections, so step it up. Like I don't want the excuse of like why I only have like this one boat still. Give me something else, please.
Yeah. So when you actually get to Yakushima, my favorite track so far in the game comes. It's already a good one. It's Wanna Be Close from when you go to school, but it's like a super laid back, chill remix of it. It's just so freaking good, and I'll plop that in right now. But the place where we go to, the vacation home, is like really decked out. There's maids everywhere, like everything's gold and like super nice. And I wrote in my notes just a observation: the maids look youngish, like 20s or 30s, but they've picked old lady voice actors like Luna in the OG Sailor Moon dub.
I noticed that too.
It was really weird. It was so weird.
I loved it.
Like it was because me and Summer are watching through Sailor Moon, or we're watching Sailor Moon Crystal, which is using the new voice actors from Viz, and that Luna is just like a 20-something-year-old girl sounding. But we've been watching the movies from the old ones because they're not in Crystal, and the first time I went from normal sounding Luna to old British grandma Luna, it messed me up. It was so
you mentioned
different.
Luna just now, and I apologize. I just realized That's where I know Yukari's voice from. She's frickin' Luna in the new Sailor Moon Crystal dub.
She's Luna. I was
wow.
hearing her. I was hearing her earlier today talking. I was like, I know that voice actor. I need to look her up. She's something.
And I could not put it together for some reason.
Look at this. This
amazing.
is wonderful. Persona 3 still being relevant today. Thank you so much, Atlas.
That's so great. After we meet the maids, everyone's like, damn, you have a lot of money. This is your vacation home. And it's literally like super decked out. It's a mansion. And that's just the one they go to every now and then. So her father shows up, and he's really intimidating and has an eye patch on. And Junpei asks if he'll make us walk the plank, which I thought was hilarious. Like every now and then Junpei does something that I can see through the lens of my 2006 self that wouldn't have caught up on the gender politics of all of it. That could be like, oh my God, Junpei's so funny. And which is probably why he's like a fan favorite, because people remember him from back in the day and not all of the really problematic things that he says.
Yeah.
Which brings us up to we all head to the beach. So Akihiko is wearing a Speedo. Main character.
I wrote a note that says, nice Speedo, Aki.
All we get is the portrait of him and his torso. And I was still like, bitch, I know he's in the Speedo.
So main character and Junpei are just in normal trunks. Akihiko is like, oh, I need to train because I'm a boxer and that's literally all that I do is train. And Junpei is like, no, let's get in the water. But he stops because in walks Yukari in her bathing suit. And he talks about how like, oh, you must be so confident to wear something like that. But as far as like bathing suits go, it was fairly conservative. Like they were boy shorts and like a sports bra. But he was like, ooh, wow. Like, look at this. It's so risque.
Well, they're high schoolers, so.
Right. So then Fuka shows up. She has like a skirt swimsuit bottom and a little midriff tank, and Junpei objectifies her as well. Fuka gets embarrassed, and Junpei does a super creepy laugh that UK calls him on, and then out walks Mitsuru, and everyone stops because she comes out serving us vegan Hawaiian beach spirit realness. Yes. She's only coconuts and fruits. She's healthy. She's vibrant. She doesn't put on any makeup. She just drinks water, and she's richer than you. And she wants you to know that. She owns the whole estate, and you better not forget it. No, it's funny because in this scene, you're able to be like, why are you so creepy, Junpei? Yeah.
You're able to like give a dialogue just like, well, do you have to be so creepy?
Oh, that's awesome.
And nothing bothers him at all.
Nope.
At all.
I also liked how the girls asked if Mitsuru had sunscreen on, and she's like, oh, no, I hadn't put it on yet. And then they both go up to her, and I'm just like, oh, yeah, let's have the girls put some sunscreen on Mitsuru. Like, if that's the extent of the LGBT representation we get in this, I'll be fine with that. But no, it gets worse.
We're almost there. We're almost ready to unleash Eli on the Junpeis of the world. Junpei asked me which of the girl is my type. I say I'm not interested because I already have a girlfriend. And so they run into the water to go and swim, but I stop because I feel someone watching me. And then later that night, Mitsuru's dad gets mad at her for going behind his back and everything. And he's like, I would have told them you didn't have to hack my corporation. You didn't have to do all of that. Like, I trust these kids. I feel responsible for these kids. If you would have just talked to me, I could have like explained everything to them. So he tells her to gather everybody up, and he specifically asks if Yukari is going to be there because, as we learned from the letter, he worked with her dad. So when he gets everybody together, he says that 10 years ago they were trying to make a time manipulation device, and as the research went along, his father, Mitsuru's grandpa, started to drift from their original purpose, and he shows us a video of the accident. The scientist who took the video is Yukari's dad, and he says something that he along the lines of that he did something to prevent it from going on the way that it was, because everything was going wrong, and that the shadows that have all dispersed, and if somebody kills the shadows, it'll save everything. And he says that he was the lead scientist on all of it, so he feels that it was all his fault. After watching the video, Yukari storms off, and I follow her to the beach. She confirmed that her dad did die in the accident, which I wrote in my notes in parentheses for the people in the back, because this is 4 hours now that we've known this in game, but she had to explicitly say it just so everyone would understand what just happened there.
Yeah, from a lore perspective that your character learned it.
Yeah. So she talks about how she's scared, but she wants to find out what happened to her dad. So she uses her persona, and it's more of the I'm super scared, but I have shit to do character building. I tried to console her, and she exploded on me, and she told me not to tell her how to feel. Did you hit that same thing, guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. She apologizes.
Yeah.
I think this is where we learn a little bit more about Yukari, right? Mm-hmm. In that she's really emotional.
Yeah.
And that and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, right? She's going through a lot. She just saw her dead dad.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of has license to be a little on edge.
Yeah, I even tell her in the thing, she's like, is it bad if I blah 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 blah? And I'm like, it's okay that you don't know. You're going through a lot. It's okay to not know what you're doing right now.
She even asked, she's like, why couldn't... And I paid attention to a lot of the dialogue in these high emotional moments, because it tells us more about the character. And we see that Yukari even says, why my dad and not Mitsuru's?
Yeah.
I don't understand it. And it's really weird to see a game talk about these themes, right? Because I feel like we don't get that irrational amount of emotion from characters, or just really from anywhere. But I did like the discussion. I did like the theme and the topic of loss and jealousy and confusion that surrounded Mitsuru. I mean, that surrounded Yukari for this specific scene.
Yeah. At the end of it, it gives me an option to give her a hug, and I didn't, because it felt like that would start a romance with Yukari. But as a person, I would have given her a platonic hug. I just didn't want to mess things over with Yuko. So that pulled me out of it a little bit. I thought there would have been because it was just give her a hug or do nothing, and I wanted it to be more clear on put your arm around her or give her a hug or something, make one that's an obviously romantic one, if that's a thing. Because it made me feel untrue to myself because I didn't give her a hug.
Well, is romance an actual thing in the game? Do you actually build romantic relationships? Because I haven't noticed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yuko is my girlfriend right now.
Okay.
She to the point where it's she'll get mad if you go out with another girl. It popped that up and told me.
I gave Yukari a hug. But then people came up and I think it was Junpei actually. He came up and noticed it, and we immediately broke off the hug. Yukari didn't even hug me back. I had my arms around her. She had her arms down at her sides. Junpei shows up and she freaks out and backs off from me. And we both kind of stand there awkwardly while he tells us, oh, we were all worried about you.
Yeah, that was about the same thing with me, except it was awkward because she opens up her heart to me and I just stand there.
Yeah, that's what I did too. I was just like, look, you just got really snappy. I'm not in the mood to touch you. I understand you're going through a lot, but no thanks.
Okay. So now the next day, the girls go on a walk through the woods, and Fuka complains about Stupe being a pervert, which is the first we really see the girl only side of that stuff in Fess. But it's, as we've already mentioned a lot, it's every single scene with Junpei and Portable. They get a call from Ikutsuki that says that his anti-shadow weapon left the lab on its own, and that we need to go and find it. So then we get to the beach, where Junpei complains that that the girls left. Akihiko says it's because you're an asshole. So Junpei is like, well, time to start Operation Babe Hunt. Eli, do you want to take this one?
Yes, I do, Sam. Yes, I fucking do. All right. First off, my character was not interested. Like I made sure to say, like, I don't care. I don't want to do this. But Junpei was like, fuck it, we're doing it anyway. So we have to run around the beach meeting girls and hitting.
Real quick. One thing I did like about this at this point before it turned into the things we're about to get to is Akihiko is like, oh, well, if this is an operation, then main character, you're in charge. And it starts playing the music from the full moons when you're doing your operations. And so it's like as if it's a legit, officially sanctioned seas operation.
It breaks the fourth wall. It's like a gag. It's a gaggy. Yeah, it's a gag that breaks the fourth wall, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, that I thought was pretty funny. But then we get into the problematic bullshit. And first off, these three guys are hitting on. They're apparently the only girls who can afford vacations are the ones who are like college aged, and they're all like joking and being like, oh, you guys are dumb, and at least the first set are and telling them like, oh, we had to save up to get our vacation, lucky you for getting a free vacation out here. The next girls that we run into are actually named. I don't remember their names, so I forgot to write them down. But like one of them like plays along flirting with us and is like trying to help us flirt better. Akihiko is super nervous. Like he takes control of this one. And he stutters and it's adorable. I really love Akihiko actually.
Which it makes me realize that everyone's view of him as a ladies' man, he completely stumbled into. Like he definitely is not in control of all these girls that come up and want to be his girlfriend and stuff that we've seen.
Yeah, it's like thrusted upon him.
He definitely has no idea what he's doing.
So that's really cute. And the girls finally admit, oh no, we have boyfriends, and they leave. So then you go along the beach and you run into a girl all by herself, and she's like, oh, hey, I saw you hitting on those other girls. Like maybe I could actually like teach you a thing or two. And she's like, you guys lack balls, which that's a problematic statement in and of itself. But like she's talking to them for a while and like is totally going along with them. And then Akihiko goes, is that hair on your chin? And I went like, here is my note. Here's my note as this started. OMG, no, not cool game. And then Junpei freaks out. You mean she is a he? Fuck you, game, and your fucking transphobic bullshit.
That was not...
So my headcanon, like as I watched it, because the game still was calling her beautiful and only Junpei was saying problematic bullshit. My headcanon and how I'm going to keep framing it to move on is that Junpei was an asshole and everyone else was like, dude, you're being transphobic asshole, and they move on. But going back and looking at screenshots, they add a question mark to Lady, her like character name. So the game is also problematic. But the way I can keep moving on is to think that that's just more shit. And I'm having a really hard time doing that everything.
Because she was put in there specifically for that comedic scene. Yeah, specifically for it to be fucking comedy and for it to be funny for them to hit on a trans woman. I did like her comment about how she's too much for them to handle. They can't handle a spicy lady like her. And I'm like, yes, you go, girl. You are a spicy lady, but also you shouldn't be framing this as though you're trying to trap them, because that is a problem. And that in itself is transphobic.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is no, go ahead, Eli, because
as I said in the first episode, I am transgender. I'm coming at this from the perspective of a transgender man. I'm not even a trans woman, so I can't speak to those experiences, but I know just from being transgender and being among the transgender community, that shit is a problem. Like, we're still seen as traps, quote unquote. Like, we're trying to trick people into thinking that we're the other gender, when no, we're the gender that we are. Everybody just thought that we were, like, it's fucked up. And so, like, sorry for going into super SJW mode, but that shit pisses me off. Like, and I know, like, I'm trying to keep in mind that this was made 12 years ago, but even 12 years ago, like, we weren't totally ignorant about transgender problems.
Yeah. I like getting through this point made me realize how like half and half, like it's not fair to be like half and half Japanese culture is, but just like in general, the entertainment that we import from Japan has things like Sailor Moon, where you have a gender fluid person that uses both he and she the same amount, at least in Sailor Moon Crystal, that like has a girlfriend on it that was too progressive for the States, and we had to censor it over in America.
Turn them into cousins. Because that makes a lot of sense.
And then same thing with Poison from Street Fighter, how it is in the canon is a trans woman, but we just made her into a straight up girl over here with none of that part of her backstory, because it was too progressive to have a trans person in a video game in 1992 or whatever. And
Vivian in Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, and Birdo as well from the Mario series.
Yeah, so it's like there's a bunch of like positive stuff that comes out that is too progressive for America, and they change it over in America. But then the overall like trope of like you mean she's a he, like shows up in a lot of anime and a lot of games, and like it's a weird like
okay to keep in.
But it's like a weird dichotomy where it's like they have all of this progress, but all of this like it's just a joke type atmosphere about it, and it like confuses me, because you would think like, oh, it's just like you could say, oh, it's just Japan. They're in anime they make this joke a lot, they're not as progressive as us, but then you see things like Sailor Moon from like 1980, like Sailor Moon is old, like it's not 1980, it's like 1989. 90s. But yeah,
no,
so
it's like mid-90s.
But like Sailor Moon is old, has been doing it better for a while. Super Mario Brothers 2 was in the late 80s with Birdo, and like they've been doing these things so good for so long, so why is it like a joke in so many things? It's so weird.
It's infuriating.
So I hate to be like an echo in this version of the game. You don't take part of that. You just see a scene between Akihiko and Junpei, and I don't remember that scene happening in this version.
Maybe they
right?
cut that out because they realized it was problematic bullshit.
I certainly do hope so. And the reason why we have to talk about this part for the people who are listening at home, and I understand why taking a few minutes to talk about this subject is not necessarily talking about the story, but we have to talk about this subject because it is not necessarily that putting trans people or trans presenting people or people who are fluid in the game is problematic. Like, we really do want that. But every single time a character is displayed as trans in a game, it's never really done in a positive light. We have examples of this from Grand Theft Auto and all its variants. We have another example of this in an older RPG on the Xbox 360 when it first came out, called Enchanted Arms, and there was a character that you had in your party that was trans, and it was probably one of the most derogatory representations of it, of trans people to begin with. And so we have to talk about this subject because even though it's small, and even though, like, for me, for example, I did not have the opportunity to just go like select people, the issue still remains that we see so much of derogatory, negative connotation perspectives that is always associated with trans people. And so at the end of the day, I really do. I remember seeing that scene when I was younger, because it was one of the reasons why I became so passionate about politics and video games overall. But we do have to say that, like, that really is just a completely inappropriate line. That I mean, this, it does absolutely nothing for the story, and like, we could have just all been better if it never was in the game at all. And I mean, it's just unfortunate that it did get put in the game, and I do hope that going forward they don't do stuff like that, because Persona in general touches a lot of topics about sexuality and touches a lot of topics about, you know, LGBT themes, and it's just very odd that this very pseudo traditional way of treating a certain demographic was also, you know, capitalized on. And so I do hope that in the future we don't see stuff like this.
I had mentioned to Sam earlier when I was ranting about it in Discord, if she had been put in as a side character who you could do like a social link with, and then you eventually found out that she was trans, like, that would be great. I think that they could do that really well.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is that the only trans representation we get in this is as a fucking trap joke. And that's wrong. I would rather not have the representation at all than negative representation, because we're represented negatively enough as it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's tokenizing trans people, and we've already seen this in books, TVs, movies, and there's just like no reason to have ever put it in a video game, even when I was at the age of 16.
Yeah, we end up feeling like I mean, that's a big part of it. We end up feeling persecuted because of all these things where, like, you know, we're put into stuff as a joke, you know, like fucking Ace Ventura, the Finkel Einhorn or whatever it was, which is a character in World of Warcraft. And when I found out about that, because I've never watched an Ace Ventura movie in my life, and I found out that Finkel Einhorn was named after this transphobic joke, I got super pissed. So I apologize. I will stop ranting about it, but like, I want to see good trans representation or no representation. Don't put us in as a fucking joke. We're sick of it.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, there's just nothing else to add to that other than to like co-sign under Eli, because like, really, I mean, and this goes, we're talking about the subject as trans people, but just don't do it to any LGBT people, period. I don't want any, like, if you're not going to do me justice, if you're not going to do it justice at all, don't. Stay in your lane, mind your business, eat your food, drink water. Okay. Write your story. Don't include, like, if you're not going to, you know, and this is a, you know, if writers are out there, if you're listening to this, if you're like a game developer and you just so happen to stumble across this trash can of a podcast, then I want you to understand, like, like, if your representation is not like you stepping into like a queer person's home, whereby anything that you say and do should be complimentary and respectful, then don't do it at all, because most writers don't have that rapport with queer people to justify making the joke about this sort of thing, right? If you don't know, if your game is not gay, don't make gay jokes. Okay, like, I don't want to see a gay joke or a dig or a punch at me if your gay isn't gay. If your game isn't gay. I mean, I'm talking like Sailor Moon gay. I'm talking about like the cowboy from The Last of Us gay. Like, if it doesn't look like that, don't put us in. Yeah, don't talk about us. Just don't stay in your lane. I'll have fun playing your heterosexual world. I swear. Okay, go on. Sorry. Go on. That was fine. My bad.
I think I've said my piece. I hate that goddamn scene, and I was actually like, I played angry for the rest of July. I was just like, I was sitting there stewing as I was playing Persona.
Yeah. That's
And
That's
from
fair. Yeah.
so I actually looked up earlier to be like, is this going to be like pulling teeth for the rest of it? Like, is this all, or is this like what's going on? And the other two social links that touch on sexuality at all are Igus's, and that's more of like a implied intimacy sort of thing, and then Maya's, which is its own thing. I don't want to say what the spoilers that I saw from it.
Yeah,
but
I'm trying to get closer to Maya too. So,
but yeah, there's not any more scenes like this. So this is like, on all of the retrospectives I found on Google, like this was held up as like, this is the chapter that you have to get through to find the like really honest, like well researched things about like depression and stuff like that. Like, we've gone for 4 episodes now talking about how real the game is on all of these other things. This is the one where it fails. The rest of it is still like a net positive. It just really sucks that this scene exists.
I'm trying not to let this scene ruin Persona for me.
Yeah.
But it
and
did.
I could see what. Go ahead.
I just gonna say it did just really, really salt up my blood.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, what it does from a story perspective is when a reader, okay, so when you're a player and you're absorbing the story and you're getting all of these really adult themes, there's a cognitive dissonance that occurs when you play this.
Oh yeah.
When you play this overplayed, flat, shallow, and pedantic joke, right? Like it is transphobic, homophobic. It is everything wrong. And what it does is it can flatten the quality of the story for people. And it's really important to note that. It's really important to state that, because if your game requires you to implement this in its script, that speaks less about the quality of your script, not about the quality, not about how good about everything else is. Because the truth is that like the line didn't need to exist, and so we have to ask why. And when we ask why, we have to be critical about it. And at the end of the day, it really does take away from the environment that you're even in, right? Because you're like, you're at a vacation home and all of a sudden you're thinking about this one interaction, and it just creates such a disruption in the pacing of the story, because up until this point the story pacing kind of like really dances with you and pulls you in, and then this happens and you're like, holy shit, no way, like I cannot believe that we go back to this and we were just talking about shooting ourselves in the head and summoning demons.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just, it makes no sense, like
right.
how it gets to that when I mean, I just don't understand how the subject of trans people comes into this game at all. Not that we don't want them, but you have to ask, if you're going to talk about trans people, why did it look like this?
Yeah. Why did you have to bring it up in this way when you've handled everything else pretty well up until this point?
Yeah, there's 2 different people who struggle with alcoholism that you have social links with. You have the monk and Maya. Both are alcoholics for different reasons, and they express it in different reasons and stuff in different ways. So like you have nuance everywhere else. It just really takes you out of that nuancy sort of storytelling style.
There's not a single ounce of nuance with that particular.
And that's why this is wrong. Yeah. And that's why this is very bad. And that's the reason why we have to kind of harp on this subject, because if it's not clear that it's wrong, then all we do is see content that is reproduced that looks just like this. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting for people to even just, I couldn't imagine what it feels like to see it and be trans, but just as a person who is part of the LGBT community, it's tiring. Yeah. It's exhausting. Like you have to come up with something new. Like you have to, like, there's no way that this is all you have. So and that's my discourse on it.
Okay. So
moving on.
my only note right here, because I was just like doing little bullet points, and I just like, oh my gosh, she's trans, question mark. I bet Eli has some words for this.
Oh boy, did I have words.
So after Operation Babe Hunt Part 1, we start Operation Babe Hunt Part 2, where they're like, it's probably really off-putting to these girls that all of us are going up at once. There's this cute girl over on the dock over here, so we'll go up one by one to talk to her.
I immediately noticed something weird about her when they showed her in the little anime cutscene, and was like, I don't think...
Definitely had some robot legs going on.
Yeah.
But so Junpei goes to talk to her, and she's like, I'm looking for a human and you're not him. And Akihiko goes over and talks to her for a while about sports and stuff, and she stops him and is like, this information is irrelevant to me. So then main character
that's like
goes
literally
to
my mood to all men.
Right?
It's like, this information is irrelevant to me, please stop talking.
So main character goes to talk to her, and she runs off. So we follow her into the forest, and she's like, I've confirmed it. I've found it. You're the one that I've been looking for. Then Mitsuru and the girls show up, and they're like, we have to get ready for a battle. But then Ikutsuki is like, no, this is the tank that I was talking about earlier. He introduces her, says that her name is Aegis, and that she's an anti-shadow weapon that's been broken for a while. He has no idea why she's back online, but she does have a persona and a will of her own. The next day, we get to see like how adorable Aegis is, and we all go to the beach, and she's like, I thought we were all having fun if only one of us goes to the water. That's not the optimal way for us to have fun.
It's great. It's great.
She forces us to have fun for the next 2 days, then skips.
Happiness is mandatory.
It skips to the night of the 23rd back in the big area. We see Shinji in an alleyway with some street youths, and then Jesus, the nerd, and the Lolita show up, and the street youths run away. They talk to Aragaki, and they hand him some capsules and says that he can pay them with information this time. And they ask why we've been doing so much with the full moons and Tartarus and stuff. He says, fuck off, basically, I don't even know them. I just saw the Mariah Carey gift. Like, I don't know her.
Oh my god! Yes, yes. We should just like Photoshop that gif over his face. Like, I don't know her.
I don't know her. And so then they grill him a little more, and he says, hey, they're just trying to get rid of the dark hour, and then Jesus, the nerd, and the Lolita don't like that. On the 24th, Aegis wakes me up. It's really cute. She's like, the poster on your wall says to do everything 5 minutes early, and so I woke you up 5 minutes early for school. And Yukari's like, oh my god, Aegis escaped again, and she's like, no, I'm in here. And she's like, look, you can't just be coming into guys' rooms. That's against the rules. I'll give you a room on the 3rd floor.
Okay, wait. So question. I have 2 questions about, I don't think this is in the original. I don't remember this being in the original, but just as a side note, do you guys have the co-op and like final hit systems in that, like, when you say if you have 3 enemies and you down one, in order to conserve mana, SP, sometimes the game will have one of your party members go like, hey, party leader, let's kick this other thing's ass. And it's like a mini all out where you and the other person just attack one target, make it knock down, and then everyone does all attack.
No, we don't have that at all.
Right. Okay. And after I talked to Yukari, the day after when we all had fun, there was another mechanic that was introduced where if you were to die, ally of yours comes and absorbs the hit instead.
Whoa,
that's really cool.
Wow, I wish I was playing the fucking PSP.
Okay, and finally, when I just makes us have fun, she she takes it's implied that she takes out her gun, and he's like, that's not the water gun and Junpei's like, that's not the water gun that I was talking about, and apparently like they are splashing him a lot, and Yukari asks like, now's our time to get him for an all-out attack, and
That's
you
so
like
cute.
you either accept like attack or relent.
That's so
If you
cute.
press attack,
Yeah.
and if you press attack, everyone dogs on Junpei.
That's hilarious. Yeah, we didn't get that.
Yeah,
It was no choices in
gold.
that scene at all.
That
Really?
was
no, it was gold.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love that it quotes her exactly. This is our chance for an all-out attack.
Oh yeah. That's literally what she says.
That's amazing.
I was like, okay,
That's
this is good.
so
And
good.
It's like that really, I love it when a game can take like mechanics of and then implement them into and then make them part of the lore, because you don't know that's something that Yukari would say outside of a battle, and so thus you don't know if she even really says it at all. And so the fact that they're kind of referencing something that they battle kind of makes you feel like, again, it creates a wall and a space between the player, the character that you're playing, and the C's group. And I really like that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a real big fan of how it's almost like Yukari's ignoring the fact that there's a player piloting this whole thing. And she's like, I'm just going to reference something that I say, not something that is a mechanic of a battle.
Yeah.
And that to me is really, really, to me, it's those kind of small moments that really bring Persona in its own world.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's really cool. So, after that, we got our exam results, and I did pretty good on mine. We've already talked about that. On the 25th, Junpei hints that you can start dating the different girls from C's. Like, he says, "Oh, I think Mitsuru will only be interested in people that ace their exams. Yukari seems like she'll like anybody, and Fuka you'll have to be really careful with." Which I know from what I had looked up with Yuko that you can start becoming boyfriend girlfriend with your party members starting after.
Well, that's going to be a tough choice because I like Mitsuru and Yukari pretty well.
Yeah. That night of the 25th, Aragaki is approached by the three mysterious people again, and they give him more capsules, and they say that they're going to stop us from destroying the Dark Hour, fully cementing them as a new enemy that we have coming up. So now we've already harped on the worst part of this month, and now we're getting to the best part of this month. On the 29th, Fuka detects a shadow. I should say, because I didn't hear, but from the 27th through the 1st, you barely get to do anything because you're training for a competition that's coming up. So it like takes control of you for most of it. So we're like zooming through the rest of the month here.
At least for those of us who are in kendo.
Yeah, did it do that for tennis?
I was part of tennis.
Okay, but yeah, I figured it just took your club and just made a thing out of
club
it.
you joined, yeah.
So on the 29th, Fuka detects a shadow that's just a normal shadow, but it's by the Naganaki Shrine, which is outside of Tartarus, so they want to go investigate it. Akihiko's already on his way. We're all gathering up to go and meet him, but he calls us and says, "Y'all need to come right away. The shadow was already dead when I got there." So we show up, and fucking Koromaru, the best pupper in the whole world, our favorite doggo.
Welcome to the best part of Persona 3. A Shiba Inu is a fucking Persona user.
And so Mitsuru's like, "We have to help him. I have enough money that when the dark hour's over, I can find somebody at midnight who can take care of him." And he was bringing flowers to the priest like at the shrine, so he wasn't just sitting there like Futurama dog like we had thought. Like, he actively was coming to pay his respects. And Aigis lets us know because she can talk to him. And we're like, "You can talk to dogs?" She's like, "Well, talk isn't the right word. They really don't have a language." But yeah, I'm so excited. I haven't gone to Tartarus since then, so I don't know if I can immediately use Aigis and Doggo in battle, but I want to.
Yep, Sam and I talked about this before we recorded, and he was like, "This is why you mentioned the doggo before," and I was like, "Yes, I did. I love Koromaru." He was, yeah, I loved Koromaru. He was like I shit you not. It was after I played Persona 3 and after I played Nintendogs that I was like, I need a Shiba Inu because I wanted to like cosplay my dog as Koromaru because holy shit, it was so cute.
It's so good. So on the 30th, Pharos, as usual, warns us it's a week from the full moon. And then on the 2nd, because we're going one day later because it was like, oh, a big thing is happening on the 2nd. And so we were like, instead of like stopping it right before, we're going to let it finish its thought. So we have the competition. Yuko is cheering for me. Like it gave me an extra option because she's my girlfriend, where I could be like, because Kazu's like, good luck, and I'm like, thanks, or I'm not worried about it. And then a third one was like, hey Yuko, cheer for me. And so I did that one, and she was like, of course I will, boo. And she gave me the first Yon Begon that we have, another thing that Michael's had from the very beginning, but this is our first ever Yon Begon that we get. And I fight in the Kendo competition. I come in second to this guy named Mamoru, no relation. And he becomes my rival, and he wants to hang out sometime at Iwa Todai Station. So that's where we ended for the month plot-wise. Did you have anything awesome that happened in Social Links that you wanted to talk about? Anybody?
I spent this month literally avoiding everybody. And like in real life, it penalizes you, because I went to go out with the librarian again, and we went to the mall because I'm a cheap ass, and I was like, let's go play some arcade games. And when we went there, I was, even though I was giving the right responses, the dialogue that I got was like, your relationship with this person seems to be in a rut. And I'm like, what? Oh my God, I do have to do these. I forgot. But that's literally about it. But the game does give you a lot of control, though, over how much you can do your social lives.
Yeah. I went and hung out with Kazu, and I told him the wrong thing, apparently. Like, I keep forgetting, like, he essentially wants me to be an asshole to him.
Yeah.
Because, like, he's a jock, and he doesn't want me encouraging him in the way that I would normally encourage people, which is like, you can do it. I'm so proud of you. And it's like, no, you need to fucking toughen up, Buttercup.
Or it's like, you're going to cause irreparable damage to your legs and you're going to be paralyzed. Please stop with the kendo. And he's like, no, I don't like it when you tell me that. I want you to tell me to toughen up, and I'll break my legs, but it'll be okay.
Actually,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, it told me my relationship with him was stale, and so
I've told him the wrong thing pretty much always, and he asked if I wanted to hang out on Saturday, and I said yes. But then Yuko, my girlfriend, was like, "Hey, do you want to go on a date this Saturday?" And so I'm like, "Sorry, Kazu, something came up." And he's like, "Oh, is that how you treat your friends? LOL, JK." But then it says, that's where the message ends. And then I got the interrobang over your head, and it pulls up his tarot card, turns it upside down, and makes it all red. And it says that your social link has reversed, and you have to go and rectify it to be able to continue being Kazu's friend.
Wow.
I forgot, but I just wanted to tell you. So the librarian storyline is actually like pretty sad because she's a pushover. One of the days that you go out and you help them, or you help her, a girl comes in and slaps the bitch in the face.
What?
She slaps the person. Yes, she's like, I saw you talking with my boyfriend. You stay away. And it says that the girl just like open hand slaps this person, and she's like, oh wow, like I did hang out with the boyfriend. And you ask her like, were you planning on doing it? And she's like, no, of course not. He's just a friend. Oh well. And I'm like, what the fuck? I swear to God, you're just doing your librarian duties. It says some random girl comes in, slaps the girl that you're dating, and she just takes it. I'm like, I'm not into this at all. Because I keep giving her answers just like, you don't deserve that. And she's like, yeah, but like, I don't want to cause any drama. And you're like, bitch, you just got slapped. And she's just like, it doesn't hurt anymore. And you're like, what? Like, I don't get it. Like, what's your problem? But yeah, that's like the only thing that's happened so far.
So the big one that I hung out with this time, because there were a lot of things that I had to do after school. So I hung out with Yuko as usual, but because after school I was busy, I did a lot more hanging out with Mutatsu, the monk. But I don't have a persona of the tower. I haven't even ever seen one when I've been fusing things. So I only get like a rank up with them every couple of times that I go and do it. But the first link I had with him, he said that he has to go and do a like funeral ceremony, but he has to do it with a hangover because he was feeling really shitty and was super drunk at the time. And he says that he's the only monk at his monastery, so he can't even get other people to do it. And he says that he's super alone because he has no wife, no kids, and no other monks to hang out with. And he tries to joke that it's awesome not having to wait for the bathroom, but then says because growing up, my son always took forever in the bathroom, and like everything with him comes to like he just wants like partial custody of his kid, but his wife's not letting him have it, so he's just drunk and throwing himself into his religion, and that's the only two things that he does is be a monk and drink. So then later I go to hang out with him, and he's shit faced, like completely and totally like slurring his words. Like they even gave him a different talking head where his eyes are like mostly closed, like completely shit faced. And he thinks that I'm his son during it. And so he's like, don't treat your dad that way. And my response is, Dad? And he's like, about time you call me dad. You always called me that old bastard. And then he sobers up. He sobers up and realizes that I'm not his son. I'm the kid that's come and hung out with him every night. And he's like, I'm sorry, but my wife and kid left me 4 years ago, and I used to go home and argue with her after work at the monastery, but now he can't even do that. So he just comes here and gets drunk anyways. So he's been running away from having a home life because he hasn't even heard from his wife or gotten a letter from them in the last 4 years, which like hurts, but it's so good.
Damn.
Yeah, these storylines get like real very fast.
Yeah. I mean, that was rank 9 for Mutatsu, so it's not that fast, but but yeah.
That's true. Rank 9 is pretty far.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, wow, you fucking nerd. This is like 3 months of the game.
Yeah. Because like you get to with him, he's there after you've done all your other social links from Thursday to Sunday. So the first like 5 I did in 1 week because they were easy to get. They're not a lot of rank up points you have to have in between. And then since then I've gotten like 1 or 2 per week. So like in just the last month I've gone from 0 to 9 with them. So
oh wow.
Yeah. But other than that, I had a date with Yuko that went really bad because I said the wrong thing. And
now she's upset at you forever.
No, she just because before that date I had a social link with her, and the kids said that they decided to challenge the 6th graders to a race, and they tied. They got 2 wins, 2 losses, and so they're them and the 6th graders are all getting along and sharing the playground. Yuko realizes this is the first time she's ever put her heart into anything, so she wants to celebrate with a party back at her place. And she's like, you can come over to my house, right? So then the next time we had a date, she's like, where do you want to go? Do you want to go to the cafe or Wakatsu? And then I had the option to say your room, and she was like, oh, my room's not clean, it's not ready for that. And it says Yuko seems disappointed, and then that ended my date. I'm just like, well, well, damn.
Yikes.
I thought that's what you were like getting at from the last scene where it said, oh, you and Yuko are like a item now, and she'll be mad if you talk to other girls. But
apparently you're not that far along.
Oh, well. Not at all.
Womp womp womp.
All right, as I try to end the episode with each time, we know what everybody's least favorite part was, but what was everybody's favorite part of the play session this time?
Can I go first, Eli?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
I love a good pearl clutch moment. And the whole unraveling of the accident that happened 10 years ago was that for me. And I remember back then when I saw it, I was just like, okay, this is some good storytelling, because most RPGs, I mean, you think that most RPGs kind of fall under a whole we're all connected somehow trope, but they don't. And in this game, we start to see that these people all have like a really thin thread between each other, and I like that concept. I like that this was this idea and what was happening to them was kind of set into motion by a very specific set of actions that happened 10 years ago. And to me, that sort of imminent drama, or that sort of imminent danger of what that means is like really cool to me. So this is a part of the game where the theme and the tone of the game is really kind of, matching what I like. And so I think that's what my favorite was as far. And also Koromaru. Yeah. I mean, like if he is just like not your, out of this whole month, he was literally at the tail, no pun intended, end of like this discussion, but he's easily the best. Like I love Koromaru.
All right, and for you, Eli?
So I guess that's hard for me because I was so salty through like the last third of June. But
that's fair.
I think actually, so my favorite parts were, I really think going through the hotel to try and find those shadows, and like the different mechanics of it, and like gameplay wise, that was really cool to see that something different was happening with the shadows every month, and that it was done in a way that kind of reflected the type of shadows that were there, specifically the lovers.
Oh, good point. That's like the snakes and the little floaty thing. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah. And I liked the comedic moment of, seeing Yukari come out of the shower and her slapping me, and then like just
seeing it happen to Mitsuru 5 seconds later.
Yeah, the whole thing with Mitsuru and Akihiko as well, like that was pretty funny. I also thought it was funny when they were all trying to hit on what was obviously not a human person. I was just sitting there like, do you two idiots not even notice that this person is not a person? Like, there's something seriously wrong.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. The answer to your question is yes, 110%. I have a question, Eli. Can I ask you one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. You said that you're very gameplay oriented, and my favorite thing about the Shin Megami Tensei and Persona series is the extra, or the one turn, or the extra one turn gimmick. How do you feel about that mechanic and that gameplay aspect now that you've kind of had a taste of 10 years of different RPGs since?
As someone who is no longer as into turn-based RPGs as I used to be, like back when I had time to really invest in story and things like that, and I got into like Final Fantasy and things like that, I super loved turn-based RPGs because it was like playing a book, basically.
Right. Thus the name of our podcast, I'm RPG Book Club.
Yeah, exactly.
God,
exactly.
So many good jokes. So many of them.
We're so clever, guys.
I just can't. I can't overstate it, really.
So, yeah, I'm not as into the turn-based RPG style as I used to be. However, having the one more system really speeds things up. It's infuriating when it misses. Oh. It's absolutely infuriating.
Isn't it though? Oh my God, it's the worst.
And like I have no idea how to improve that other than just leveling up. But and then being able to do the all-out attack, like that's really cool. That's a really different take on the typical turn-based RPG style. And I like RPGs that do that, where they kind of play with the mechanics a little bit, so that it's not just, all right, I'm going to wait for my turn and then I'm going to use Cura or whatever. like the Mario RPGs. They've all got kind of an active element to them.
Yeah, I agree.
And so like it's not as active, obviously. It's still turn-based, but there's a little more that you can think about. Changing your persona in the middle of a fight as well. Like, when I come up across the fights in Tartarus that are like two of the dancing hands that are weak to Agi, and the eagle or vulture or whatever it is that's weak to Garu. Like I hope that I have Angel out as my first one so that I can Garu it, and then I'll switch to like Orpheus or Nekomata, and then I'll use Agi on the other two, and then I can all out attack them, and it's really cool, and it makes me feel super powerful. So yeah, I really enjoy that mechanic, and I think it's it makes it more dynamic than the typical turn-based style.
And what I love with it is a lot of people think of this as a negative, but I love it, is you don't control your party members as much. So it's like it feels like all on you to figure things out. Like you have to go and solve the puzzle of the fight. It makes every fight feel like a puzzle, even if it's as easy as like, okay, well, I have fire, so I'll take down the fire ones first, then I'll switch to ice and take down the ice ones. Like it's not a very complicated puzzle, but it's enough where it's not just I'm going to smash A and win this fight, like every Final Fantasy comes down to at some point.
There have been Oh, sorry.
But as a note, though, for the listeners, your party members are smart.
Oh, they're super smart.
Yeah, so like if you are like you solve the puzzle and it takes like maybe 1 to 2 turns, right? Like I'm throwing a spell at them, and by next turn Fuka will solve this for me. And then after that, once you get the weakness identified down, then your allies will start to mimic that weakness too. So or they'll try to if they
right. There are times though where like it seems like Akihiko does this the most, and it pisses me off, where he'll use Zio on something that's weak to Zio, and then instead of going to the next enemy to use Zio again on them, he'll fucking use Zio on the same enemy, and I'm just like, come on, dude.
So that's a system that's like a battle system thing, because in Persona 3 Portable, they much more try to knock everything down. In fact, Junpei only ever tries to knock everything down. I don't know why.
So now that I'm like way up on the top of Tartarus, I'm starting to see that they got smarter with me. So like I caught on at the very beginning that you should do one of each, but like now that I'm way up there, almost every time they'll and I don't even have to not put them to the knockdown support status. They just look and like we'll take the first one down, then take the second one down. Like it's like they're learning while we're playing through. Which I don't know if it's programmed that way or if it's I'm just getting luckier now or what. But it definitely. Because I noticed it before too. I was like, Akihiko would always just like keep punching the same thing, but now he'll have like 30 ones to do, and he'll take them down one at a time.
Gotcha. That's good to know.
But since we're speaking about fights, I wanted to talk about my favorite part, because it was my least favorite part before the story least favorite part. But mechanically, the fight that you get to, I think it's the level 85 boss, but it's a huge HP sponge, basically, and it reflects a bunch of elements. Garu gets through, so Yukari was just doing that. Everybody else was reduced to punching, and but that fight, it really hammered home like. So remember that I found out you could switch personas only 2 episodes ago. So there were 2 months, 2 months of Sam being bad at this game. If that Sam had gotten to here, he would be destroyed, because the guy does Mazionga, the one that is 3rd level, attacks everybody, it destroys. Well, because he blocked like all of my elements, I switch over to Mithra that had like plus 32 strength, and I was like, I'm just going to use the strength so that I can punch you. But Mithra is weak to lightning. So what would happen is on his turn, he would use Mazionga, which would knock me down. it would come to my turn and skip me. Then Akihiko would heal Yukari instead of me, and then before I could use my turn, the guy would use Mazuyanga again, knock me down again, and just whittled my entire health all the way down.
Yo,
and I could do no inputs. So like,
yeah, that's also the negative about this, right? Is that the plus turn system can and will work against you if you are not careful, and you have to be careful in this game with that system.
And so my since I'm playing on easy, I have those 10 wipe proof items. I used 4 of them in that fight, so now I have I have none left. I'm surprised I actually won in the end, but it was like the only time I felt like frustrated, but like in a good way of like, oh my god, this guy is hard, and I can't imagine what he's going to be like on normal when you guys get to him. But for me, like, it was the first time like I felt on the ropes for the first time. I like really was thinking like, okay, well, I know it's going to take me longer, but if I can get in and get a turn, I can switch to something that I switched to Narcissus, who's strong against lightning. So now suddenly,
which boss is this?
It's the level 85 boss in Tartarus.
Okay.
It's I have no idea. I was about to say what arcana it was, but I can't remember. But and so I switched to Narcissus, and I felt like this was finally a boss fight that had like another level of puzzle besides just find their weakness, because there was no weakness to find. It was a fix your own weakness. And so don't bring Yukari because she's weak to it, and don't use something that's weak to it at all, and you'll probably do good. But because I had Yukari constantly getting hit and got myself constantly getting hit, I just was always like on the ropes, down and out, and I like was super frustrated with it, but accomplishing it like made me feel really awesome. So that was probably my favorite part of this month.
Cool.
Especially because Michael already took Koromaru, which I mean,
I love Koromaru.
Yeah, but
he's the best.
Other than that, I forgot to plug it last week, but if you like what you hear and you want to come and hang out with us, we have our Patreon at patreon.com/rpgbookclub, and we have our Discord, whose link is in the description. If you're listening on iTunes, I don't know if it has the description, so the link to it is also on our Patreon if you want to go over there. But we talk all the time in our Discord. In fact, my wife the other day called me while I was at work and was like, how do I close Discord, because it keeps interrupting me while I'm playing The Sims because you and your friends don't shut up. So we're always hanging out over there. We're on Twitter at RPG Book Club, where you can see us retweet things from people who are funnier than us. We also put up screenshots every now and then from there. So yeah, definitely come and hang out with us. But I think that's about it. So next week we will be stopping on September 1st or 2nd if there's another thing that like leads us into the 2nd, but we'll try and stop on the 1st. And we'll see you guys on Monday for RPG Book Club. I've been Sam.
I have been Michael.
And I've been Elias.
And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.